So do you think you can go through the list? You were hired in 1991.
Yes.
Then you were a library aide at Southwest? Is that
Library
right?
aide at Southwest for 6 months there, and I did story times and a little bit of everything else. And then I was in the planning and local government department on the 4th floor at the main library, just for 3 months there, and then genealogy department for 6 months, followed by the children's department. It was in the basement at the time. And then I was in the arts and literature department briefly before I became a branch manager. And my first manager position was at the Winter Garden Library. And it was at its old location on Cypress Street, which is about a block off of Dillard in Winter Garden. I was there for a year, and during that year they had opened Southeast as an outlet branch, and that was a quick hit library that had a small collection and places for people to get popular stuff and computers and have meeting rooms and lots of story times and things like that. And they were going to open another one, and I expressed interest, so I spent some time in Questline, which was called Tic-Tac-Toe at the time, and looked for a new location. But during that time, they opened up some more department head positions. So I applied for those and was department head of the audiovisual department, which was on the 1st floor where Children's is now. That lasted 7 months, and then they decided to put back together the genealogy department on the 4th floor, and I was in 1996, and they needed a department head. I had worked there 6 months, so I knew genealogy, so they asked me to be in charge of genealogy. I ended up being on the 4th floor for the rest of my time at Maine mostly, but the department kept changing. So I was head of genealogy, the law department was up there. That department had decided to retire, so they said, Greg, you can just do the whole floor. And I'd worked at planning and local government for 3 months, so I knew the law department a little bit. And so I was in charge of genealogy and law for a while. While I was there, they moved all microfilm up there, all periodicals up there, all reference material, so it kept changing. And eventually the law collection moved and went to the Florida A&M College of Law. So that kind of changed. And then eventually, while I was there, the department head of Questline decided to retire, and they needed somebody to take care of that as well. And so I took that on in addition to the 4th floor. So I was in charge of both the 4th floor and Questline for several years. I let my manager know that that couldn't continue forever because that's kind of a challenge to be in charge of that much material. During that, Questline became the call center for the library, and we started taking all calls from customers. Branches no longer had to answer the phone for customers, and so I was kind of in charge of that whole transition for Questline. Then that ended when a bunch of people retired around 2008, 2009, and they asked me to come out to West Oaks. So then I was a branch manager at West Oaks, and of course, while I was here, they decided to move genealogy out here and make us a genealogy center. So I was the manager of West Oaks Branch and Genealogy Center, and that's what I am right now. And that's what I'll retire from.
You nailed it. You got all of them.
So that's a lot.
That was impressive. When Yvonne sent me that, I sent back the emoji with the big eyes. 'Cause
Yes.
I was like, oh my gosh, that is crazy. And then I see on here the Tic-Tac-Toe lab that you had mentioned.
Right,
And
right, that was interesting. That was the early stages of Questline.
so just, you went through all that. You've clearly seen a lot of change
Yes.
in the library itself. I guess of all that change, what do you take away from seeing the library kind of grow into what it is today? What stands out to you?
Well, the number one thing is innovation and adaptability. So change is just a big, foregrounded aspect of how the library is run. They're always aware of what to do next, very future-oriented. Let's do what we're doing now well, but always be thinking about what we can do next. And so my career kind of reflects that with the changes that have been made. So the innovation keeps the library relevant, keeps us current, helps meet the needs of the public as those change, helps meet the needs of staff as the needs of our employees change, and being competitive to attract the best people. So that kind of innovation has really helped us continue to be a viable operation in the community and to really serve the community. And I find that to be the number one thing that I've enjoyed and also have valued about the library, because it really reaches out and is able to adapt and change to all the changing things in the world.
Great answer. So you really had no experience with genealogy or any of that prior to coming and being placed in that position?
No, all my training has been on the job. I didn't know much about genealogy, didn't really know what it was. It was my third position in the library, and I said, I'm flexible, train me in whatever you want me to train. They did tell me when they hired me that I was on a 2 to 3 year training program, and they would move me around. So I knew that was coming, and they really did with me. So when I went into genealogy, just like we do today with anybody new, they warned me that if you get interested, you're going to be hooked for the rest of your life, because it's kind of addictive. It's a detective story, and it's an adventure into the past, and there's always something more to find. And of course, I got very interested, and so I've been working on my own genealogy ever since. But I didn't know anything about it, and just learned on the job.
So based on what you've experienced with genealogy, what would you say to people to get them interested in it? What is it about it that is a hook, and you would tell people you should look into this? Or
Well, it's a process of discovery, and the main thing for me is it's a discovery about yourself, because all these people in the past have contributed to creating who you are today. And so it's interesting and it's fun just to connect with history and to realize how much has gone into getting to today. And there's generation after generation, and they lived in so many different ways with so many different technologies than we have today. But they each experienced a new technology in their own lifetimes. It might have been a different kind of plow instead of a different kind of software or computer. But to me, it's exciting to have that richer sense of who you are and a connection with all of history. The more you discover, the more you connect with further into the past and get to know more about what the world's been all about as people actually lived life, individually in their individual times.
when you first started here, did you see yourself staying as long as you did?
Not at all. I had no idea. I thought someday I might be a professor of English at a college. I was still working on my PhD when I came here. I ended up being ABD, but that's okay. My career went into another direction. But my teaching experience and my teaching skills and my research skills from what I did before I came to the library were exactly what was needed for everything I did here. Also communication skills. And so, 1 year led to the next, and it just ended up being over 29 years till today. So,
Congratulations.
thank you.
What is it about working for this job and this community that kept you energized every day?
Well, it's really two things. One is each day's a little bit different. You have some familiar things that are repeated, and so that gives you a grounding and you kind of know what to expect. But you also have the opportunity to learn something new every day, and each day can be a little bit different, so that keeps it fresh and exciting, and you can anticipate something new. So that process of learning and uniqueness is stimulating. And then our whole service is helping people, and they need a variety of different things, and it can just be from entertainment to trying to find a job, to learning new skills, to helping them with school. And so we're connecting with their lives in so many different ways and assisting them on whatever they're trying to accomplish. And that's just very stimulating as well, because there's so many resources and different steps and a variety of formats that we could offer them. And the flip side of that is the customers are very appreciative. They really value what we've done, and they take time to let us know. And so that's been very moving. Getting a little teary about it because feel like you've really contributed to their lives, and that they would take time to tell you. I've had people stand in line waiting at the reference desk downtown or here at the circulation desk at the library, at the branch, and when they are done waiting and now it's their turn, they say, "Oh, I just wanted to let you know how much I appreciate what you did for me today." And that people would just take their time, spend their time to wait to tell you that is just a really satisfying experience.
Well, building off that, we've had the saying here, we change lives.
Absolutely.
How true do you think that is? You've got to see, lots of employees do their thing, and you've got to experience doing your own thing to help people in different ways.
Right.
How do you think the library contributes to changing lives?
Well, with employees, we're giving them the opportunity, we're giving them training. They too have to adapt and change and learn all of these things, and it can be a challenge. Sometimes it's a little exhausting to be constantly learning something new, but it's also very stimulating, and so we're increasing their skills. Recently with the pandemic, we've had so many different staff members at different levels learn how to use Zoom and learn how to present online. They might have been hesitant or a little nervous or scared about that, but they've adapted and they've learned to do that, and so they can still reach out to customers and provide that even though it's remotely. And so they've learned those new skills. We also give them opportunity to advance at the library, and I have staff of all kinds of levels throughout the library that worked for me, and I might have been the first person to hire them, and here years later they're still with the library, but they might be on their third position with the library, and they've been able to move up and do new and different things and grow. So that's been wonderful for staff to be able to change their lives that way. With customers, we've even had customers come back years later. We had a customer on the 4th floor at the main library, and he was a bit challenged in his life, and really the library was where he stayed when we were open. And he was someone who behaved very well, and was using the library and using it as a shelter basically during the day when we're open. And after a while, he disappeared, and we didn't see him for a number of years. But about 3 years later, he came back and told us he wasn't here at the library for a while because he got a job as a long-distance truck driver. And so he was all over the country, and he even hadn't been in Orlando for quite a while. But he was back, and he wanted to come back and thank us for giving him a place to be, for giving him resources, for being kind to him, and that kind of support helped him move on in his life and recover from what he needed to recover from, and get a job and become a contributing citizen to the community. And he came back and let us know that 3 years later. So
that's awesome.
We really changed lives.
You talked about it briefly, this pandemic that we've had this past year. I guess just what are your thoughts with the library and what we did during that, and how we still contributed service to our customers?
Right. Well, I worked with 3 directors, and currently it's Marianne Hodel, and all 3 of them were very customer service oriented and also very supportive of the staff. So both things were constantly happening simultaneously, and that also happened with Marianne and how she dealt with the pandemic and allowed us all to continue to keep working, really thought about the customers and what the customers needed during that, adapting to what we could do for them depending on what was available technologically, and adapting to that. When we were closed for a little while, still letting staff do things from home, and being able to continue to get paid and to continue to do work. We opened fairly quickly, I think, given the pandemic, but then opening as safely as we possibly could for both staff and customers. And so putting everything in place, following the guidelines of the CDC and other things in order to keep everyone as safe as possible, including requiring people to wear masks, adding new cleaning routines, social distancing, limiting our hours and services, which is a little bit unfortunate, but it let us continue to be open and continue to serve as much as possible, given we wanted to make sure everyone was healthy. So the library, I think, has handled it exemplary manner to allow both staff and customers to continue provide library service and enjoy library service.
Perfect. This next question, I guess, goes for Sarah. What wisdom would you give to the next person that takes your spot?
Well, I shared this the other day. We had a Teams lunch for managers in my honor, which was a lot of fun. And the first thing I said was have fun at work. You spend a lot of time here, enjoy it. Find ways to really enjoy what you're doing and enjoy your staff and enjoy your customers. And the other thing I said was lead with love. Love yourself, love your work, love your staff, love your customers. Everybody is struggling to just live on this earth and get by each day. And we have the opportunity to employ staff and use their skills and honor their abilities and help build them. And then we have this wonderful opportunity to serve the customers. And so understand that they've come in here for some particular need and honor that and do what you can to meet that. The other thing is embrace learning. And know that even next year, your job is not going to be quite what it is today, and you're not going to quite be who you were a year ago. You're going to have grown and learned things and being able to share that with others. And so just always be open to that change and new knowledge and new talents that you're going to constantly be developing and being able to share with others.
Perfect. So this question comes from Aaron, I believe, who said, you went to space camp for librarians?
Yes.
And what can you tell us about that?
That was a wonderful experience. It was a program by the Space Center that was originally set up for science teachers. But the man who ran the program's wife was a librarian, and so she was constantly urging him to include librarians in this process. For science teachers, it's usually a 2-week program. And when they reached out to libraries, they said, well, we really probably couldn't have staff gone for 2 weeks. So they adapted it and made it a 1-week program, but they had 2 sets of people. So they still did it for 2 weeks, but it was a 1-week program twice. And so there was a group of us, maybe about 20 of the OCLS people were able to go, about 10 each week. And the first group ended their week at Epcot, and the second group began their week at Epcot. So we're all together at the same thing. We had a behind-the-scenes tour of that. And the whole point of it was to learn a lot about the science and the process of space exploration, both from human astronauts, going into space, but also all the different kinds of science experiments and knowledge that comes out of it, and to encourage offering STEM-based programs and events at the library. And so we spent a week there doing a whole variety of things, touring the Space Center. There was 2 space shuttles that were at the Space Center at the time. One was in the assembly building, and it was upright as if it was ready for takeoff. We were able to walk under that and look at that. And then there was another one that was not upright. It was more like it was parked. And we were able to walk right under that as well and see that. We were able to meet some astronauts in training. And that was a thrill for us, and they were kind of thrilled that we were thrilled. They were just amazed that it was such a thrill for us to see real live astronauts. We were like, you're astronauts in training, that's really awesome. Because that's a rigorous program for them to get there. We built various types of rockets, either out of paper or plastic or other things, and launched them in different ways, and learned how we could share that with customers in events. And then also did some exploration of the Space Center's natural habitats, and so learned that part of science, and then just brought that back to the library with all kinds of handouts and experience and knowledge that we could then develop into some library programs, which we did, and also some displays and things like that with all the things that they gave us. So it was a really thrilling experience to sort of pretend you're an astronaut in training for a week and learn all that science and then bring it back and share it with customers.
That's awesome. So some of these questions now will be about Marianne, since Marianne is going to be retiring as well. What do you think, because you've seen some other directors as well, what do you think her biggest impact on OCLS has been?
I think she has a very dynamic vision, and she's always looking to the future, and encouraging everybody to seek something new and bring something new to the library. She brings that, but I think even more than that, she creates an atmosphere that not only encourages it, but kind of expects it, that says we are going to be a viable institution that's an ongoing service to the public by continuing to adapt those services to whatever's next. So that real future orientation and forward thinking attitude and encouragement is probably the number one thing that she's brought to the library, and a real dynamic energy behind that. The other part of it is a real appreciation for everything all of us do as staff at the library. She's enormously supportive of staff and ongoingly, in many ways, appreciative of what every single person here does. And that comes across, and whenever she expressed that appreciation in various meetings and things like that, staff immediately turn around and express their appreciation for her and for her creating that kind of atmosphere where we're able to do that.
Do you have a favorite memory of working with her?
A favorite memory? That's interesting. It always takes a moment to think about it. I don't know. It's hard to think. Well, I just really like that she's always had ongoing meetings at all the different locations and with all the different departments with staff. It's about quarterly, maybe not quite, but just that she established that routine, and then often brought a guest with her, as usually was another staff member, so that all of the library could get to know all the different operations of it. And then, of course, Staff Day was a wonderful event that I believe she started. I'm not absolutely sure if it existed before she did, but that it was really a wonderful time to celebrate everybody and to have another opportunity to learn in a relaxed atmosphere. And she always there too shared her appreciation, and she was always very funny at Staff Day throughout the day, and it really encouraged that. And like it goes back to what I said earlier: have fun at work. And I think the staff does, as a whole, have a sense of humor, and Marianne does as well. And so that sense of humor and her ability to laugh, in spite of all the challenges we might be facing, just allows people to relax and handle those challenges with a sense that we're here to help, and we're all just here for success, and we can face those challenges and we can face it with a sense of humor. So I've always appreciated her humor and her ability to laugh along with all of us and encourage us to have a good time as well.
Perfect. So Scotty sent me saying, were you a part of the Citizenship Inspired as a project?
Yes, I've been the coordinator of Citizenship Inspired since 2009, shortly before I came out here. And that's a program that the library established. We did get an IMLS grant to get that. And that's something that we present to the public in order to assist them in their process of becoming citizens. It's for people who are close to being ready for the citizenship interview. And so we have staff that presents a series of events where they come and they practice their English, because a big part of the citizenship test is how well do you speak and read English. So part of it is just to be ready for that. And the other part is to be ready for the civics questions. There's 100 civics questions, and they have to get 6 out of 10 correct. And so we practice all of those. And we've been able to adapt that to the pandemic environment, and that is being presented on Zoom as well. We've had customers come back and let us know that they've become citizens, and they express their appreciation for what we've done to get them to that stage, so we love that. I had one opportunity to actually be the guest speaker at a citizenship ceremony, and so that was wonderful. There were about 400 people there becoming citizens. And so it's a very moving, touching experience, lots of tears, because this was their opportunity now to take that next step and become a citizen. So that's been an excellent program. We've had that throughout the years. I think it started in 2007. It's ongoing. I've turned that over to Carolyn McClendon. She's going to be in charge of that now. And we have multiple locations that present it. We have multiple staff that present it. We started with tech trainers presenting it and use technology for the customers to use. That turned out to be a challenge because they were really focused on the English and the civics questions, and we were also trying to get them to use this technology, so we kind of changed that over the years. Now it's a mix of clerks, tech trainers, librarians, a number of staff present it, and it's just been very, very successful and will continue to be going forward.
Awesome. So my last question is just what would you say to OCLS, you know, as a thank you, or what would you say to, you know, the brand, I guess, for your time?
I'd say thank you for all the opportunity. I never expected to be here this long. I never expected to do so many different things. There are people in the system who were hired into one position and are still in it, and that's been great for them. I think my path has been great for me. I think I've really enjoyed that and enjoyed being able to do so many different things. I joked the other day that my personnel file says, "Ask Greg, he'll do it." And Marianne shared, she says, well, she thinks part of why I moved around so much is I was seen as a problem solver and somebody who could take on some variety of challenges and be the one who could take that forward and be successful at it. And I really am thankful for the opportunity to do this. I'm thankful to be able to know that I've had that reputation. I think OCLS has been excellent about acknowledging the talents and the abilities of staff and recognizing that and giving them opportunities and rewarding them with an excellent place to work and a wonderful benefits package and things like that. I've had opportunities to present about library services throughout the country. I've been from Boston to Seattle to Milwaukee to Daytona Beach, so even locally. And it's been wonderful to be able to share that throughout the country. And people recognize that we are a standard bearer for innovation in libraries. So I just say thank you for being that kind of library system. Please continue being that kind of library system, and you'll be able to keep sharing things with customers and changing their lives and supporting staff and encouraging them and building their skills and changing their lives too.